I've always wondered what it would be like to be that girl. You know, the ones who seem to have it all figured out, that perfect life, an incredible career, partner, and everything in between. Well, so far, I've identified more as imperfectly perfect. But here's a crazy idea. You and I'm confident we can have it all too. A life we're in love with. Because, hear me out, the more I go through life, the more I realize that actually no one knows what they're really doing. And let's be honest, we're all out here just trying to figure it all out. Life can be messy, busy, and lonely sometimes. But most of all, it's pretty epic, and that's the fun of it. Making mistakes and learning to love who you are. Because you can't hate the experiences that shaped you, right? Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can become who you were meant to be in the first place. But one thing I know for sure is that if there's one thing I'm willing to bet on, it's myself, my true self, and so should you. Welcome to the She's Got It All Figured Out podcast. Well, almost. A personal development podcast helping you design a life you love within the 8 dimensions of wellness. Now, grab a warm cup of coffee, go on your hot girl walk, or put on your sweats and get comfy. But whatever you're doing, get ready for some epic girl talk. Hi Thalia, welcome to the She's Got It All Figured Out podcast. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be on.
Oh, so Thalia, you're a certified personal development and NLP coach. So when I saw your profile, I was really intrigued because I see you're bringing a lot to your community and your clients and all of that. So I would love to get to know you a little bit more and for the audience to get to know you as well. Just how did you kind of get started in the field?
Yeah, so I always find it really funny when I'm being introduced in any kind of setting, really, because, you know, we used to have the kind of check off the box of what kind of occupation you have. And it was like you were a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant. And I have a lot of trouble even saying, okay, yes, I'm a certified coach because I'm also a business owner and I have, I'm an entrepreneur like yourself and I do a lot of different things. I also work on movie and TV productions as a tutor. I graduated from McGill in business and I ended up just through fate or serendipity, I ended up working as a tutor in my old high school, and one thing led to the next. And I was tutoring privately for 4 years and within schools, and eventually I just decided to start my own tutoring business. So I was, yes, passionate about math, but really ultimately was passionate about helping people, and I liked working in the one-to-one setting because I really felt that I could pull a certain energy from my students when I could really just be alone with them and I could understand them better, how they ticked, get to the core of, their confidence and their goals and overcoming limiting beliefs and all that stuff. And after doing that for very many years, I sort of got tired a little bit of, doing the same math problems, but what I still really loved from it was working with people one-to-one and helping, right? So I have a story that's a little bit similar to yours, whereby I had moved to Paris with an ex-boyfriend thinking, okay, this is going to be a fresh start, I'm going to do something different and, in a new city and it's romantic. And it was anything but romantic. It was not great. The relationship was not working out. But when I had gone there, I had said to myself that I was, a lot of people had said to me, oh, you'd be a really great life coach. And I honestly didn't really know what that meant, but I knew that I always got really excited when people told me about their projects or their business ideas. I would spend hours just for free talking to people about that kind of stuff. And anyway, I moved back from Paris, long story short, and moved in with my mother, whom I had not lived with in 10 years. And
another start.
It was not easy. And then the pandemic hit. So we were in, lockdown in an apartment together. But in that time, I started the life coach certification program through Flow Institute in Toronto. And through that, and in combination with meditating every day and exercising, I had always been journaling, but I really started to focus more on kind of that present tense affirmation journaling, all that stuff. All this developed and I became certified and eventually launched my coaching business at the beginning of 2021.
Yeah, and
kind of what I feel is interesting that you're talking about is, so you knew you had that skill, to help people, but it's always challenging as well to take your talent and make it into a business. So how was that part of, making things happen for you?
Yeah, no, definitely I would say that's definitely the biggest challenge, because I had already had my own business and I was still tutoring, and I am still doing that, and I have people working for me, but tutoring is a different kind of field, because parents, their kids start to fail or don't do well, and then they automatically seek out a tutor, right? So, and they're willing to spend almost anything on it. And so business was always coming to me, and I never really had to look for it. I didn't have to market or advertise or,
because you were already kind of doing it before you even
well,
started.
that's it. It was like inherently a very sought after position that I had, It's like, as soon as I said I was a math tutor, anywhere I was, well, let me take your number down, And so at the beginning of 2021, we were still kind of in certainly in Montreal, Quebec, we were in the thick of, curfews and lockdowns and all that stuff. But I kind of, when it's almost like when you have nothing to work with, you try anything, right?
Yeah. I feel like that's what you have to do.
Yeah, because, whatever. So I threw myself out there. I made this New Year's intentions workshop. I started promoting it on Facebook and Instagram and all this different stuff, and people ended up coming, and I ended up getting a one-to-one client from there. And then, I was doing Instagram engagement, and I had learned a few things from a friend who has a social media business in London, and she had taught me a little bit about engagement. And so and then I got another client through there and in Florida. And then Clubhouse became a thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I ended up being on there for about 6 weeks and made a ton of connection. I started, being also on podcasts then, and just getting one-to-one clients, and then offering, discounted prices also to just work with people to gather testimonials. And yeah, it was just kind of building things up organically that way. And then things started to pick up momentum.
Yeah, and from the stories that I know and a little bit about the women you've helped, making like a big difference in women's lives. So how do you kind of approach, each client when you get started to work with them?
So I feel like I still currently struggle with the whole push marketing thing. I'm bombarded with information of success stories of different coaches on social media, and there are six-figure
things. It becomes a sea of information. You're like, where do I start?
Yeah, and it's just this feeling of like, I'm supposed to have the right this and the sales funnel and the niche, and just this a lot of pressure about speaking to an ideal client and providing this perfect solution to this problem, etc. But I find that people end up coming to me a lot of the time because they know me in some capacity, or they've been following me and they feel like they know me because I'm authentic, I'm straightforward, I really am who I appear to be. So really I always approach when people approach me, or if I feel like there could be a connection there, I approach in a very kind of non-salesy way, because I feel like I might have something genuine to offer them. In terms of,
when like you have something to offer, then, and people come to you because of that.
Yeah.
Like when you have something genuine, I feel like in this day and age too, like you said, if I'm a person and I'm looking for a personal development coach, and I'm looking on the internet, like there's so much information, and I'm going to be looking for that one-on-one, like that connection, because if I'm struggling, then I want someone who's going to actually listen and try to help me in my journey.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's important for me to be very approachable. I use my sense of humor also that's part of who I am. And so people kind of like that. It makes them feel at ease. And then, I still have that teacher part of me that I collect a lot of, I did that. I'm still working actually on the neuro-linguistic programming, the NLP certification. I amass a lot of knowledge. I read a lot of things, and then I think one of my skills, honestly, is just being able to intuitively draw upon the tools I've accumulated over time and offer them to people when hearing, what's going on with them. So I think that I'm really multifaceted in that way, that I just have an intuitive ability to
adapt to the person,
to kind of listen, ask the right questions, and then have something come to my mind about, oh yeah, this actually, have you heard about this concept? And, have you heard of, but not pushy. I don't tell people there's a very big common misconception about life coaching or business coaching or any of that stuff, which is, oh, you give great advice, I bet. And I don't give advice. That is not what I do. I can offer some tools and some things that have maybe worked for me or have worked for other clients. But generally, the whole thing is about asking thought-provoking questions that really has the client realize, oh yeah, I never really thought about that before. It's true, I know it. And it's crazy how much people actually already know the answers to their problems.
Really?
They think they don't know. But when I ask a question, they always, sometimes people will say, I don't know, I want you to tell me. But when you do a little more digging and have that patience and can hold space, it's crazy how much people will be like, yeah, they already have those ideas.
Yeah, but they need that guidance to get there.
That's right. And then it really kind of falls down to the execution. Yeah. That's really where having a coach helps you the most, is the accountability portion. Because a lot of people do know what they need to do. They just don't follow through consistently.
That's true. That's like, going to the gym or anything like that.
Right. But really anything that you want to do, any project that you undertake, it's kind of like I always think about when you're in elementary or high school and your teacher gives you homework. If you know they're checking it, you're more likely to do it, right?
Yeah.
And there's always going to be some students who do it anyway, even if the teacher doesn't check. Yeah. But knowing that someone is there to meet you and kind of follow up on your progress is really, I think, the key factor in executing long-term change.
Yeah, that's true. You talked to me about something off camera that I found really interesting. You mentioned something that comes up a lot is kindness and people pleasing with women that you work with. So I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about that aspect.
Yeah, for sure. I think that we as a society, humans are wired to connect to one another. And, the worst thing that can happen is we're ostracized from community. So, but certainly women are raised in such a way that they often do feel the need to people please because they're afraid to let people down. And, they end up taking on just so much mental load, so many tasks. They don't know how to say no to people. It's very hard to exercise boundaries. And I think there's a really important distinction between kindness and people pleasing. And that's something that I'm going to talk about more on my social media going forward. But, I think that people pleasing is when you are shrinking yourself in some way or diminishing your own needs in order to make someone else happy, but at your own expense.
Yeah.
And I think there's a very big difference between that and having boundaries that you can politely or respectfully share with other people, right? Creating that space around you that feels right for you, that people have a choice to either engage in or they don't, but that's their choice, right? And still being a kind person, still being thoughtful and considerate and mindful, right?
Yeah. And I feel like as women, like you said, it's really hard to put up boundaries. I know, like myself, I've struggled with that in the past, and then accepting things that I know like aren't good for my energy or myself or anything like that. So, but putting those boundaries are really hard. So how do you feel like women can put boundaries like this and like help them like get out there and say no? And
yeah, I think it's really a sequence of events of sorts, right? First of all, really the self-awareness portion is something that's super important that I work with all my clients on. A self-awareness piece is really recognizing what's happening inside of you, what your physical cues are, your emotional cues, knowing what you want, what you need, your core values, what's important to you, and what's not okay. And that's where at the very least you start with a foundation that you can then start to find the language to communicate to other people what your boundaries are. And that's where I really help people as well, is finding that language, because a lot of people just don't even know how to express themselves.
I can say I didn't know, and I'm sure like I don't really know still.
Right. So and one really crucial part of that is starting to be comfortable with discomfort. Yeah. Because ultimately saying no or honoring our own needs can feel uncomfortable, certainly when we feel like we're letting someone else down, whether that's in a professional context or a personal context, in relationship, right? And being able to say to yourself, okay, this is uncomfortable, but I'm going to phrase it this way, and I'm honoring my own needs, because I know that when I fill my cup, I can actually show up as the best version of me for myself and for other people.
That's true. Once you do that, then you allow yourself to be the best that you can be.
Yeah, absolutely. So being okay with that discomfort over time does build up that self-esteem and self-confidence, and having that compassion for yourself as well, recognizing that, this is okay. and it doesn't feel so good right now, but this is me being stretched and expanded, right? And finding ways also to say things to people that feels okay for you and gives them time to adjust to you also having those boundaries, right?
Yeah, that can be a challenge too. Like, but sometimes, like you said, maybe some people will be disappointed when you put boundaries like this. But yeah, you have to do some self-care. It's just essential.
Yeah, and I think that ultimately the people who really care about you and want to be in your life, they will happily honor those boundaries, even if it takes some adjustment.
That's going to give you some hints too.
Yeah. No, for sure. So I think it's important in business, absolutely. And certainly, a woman like you or myself or anybody who has their own business or is working in a very kind of ambitious corporate setting, and then also, has personal relationships and family members and all these things, it's so incredibly important to, it's part of, it's like organizing your schedule, but it's internal.
Yeah, that's so good. Right? I never thought of that. Yeah.
It's like I color code all my schedules on Google Calendar. That's like my thing. But it's kind of like that internally, right? Internal prioritization and having the capacity to, decide what's good for you and having those mindful relationships, those conscious relationships and connections with other people.
What do you think also in terms of your own personal goals? If it's your business or personal goals, what's kind of coming up for you in the next, months, years? Yeah,
I think that I have a very strong voice. I've been told that I have I think it's an open throat chakra. Oh, yeah. I think that I'd really like to get to a place where I'm doing more speaking engagements, connecting with more people. I am doing one-to-one coaching. I'm still available for that, but at one point I'd like to also do group coaching because I really love the concept of community and connecting people together, particularly with women. I'd love to eventually do retreats, like, these kinds of personal development and growth retreats in exotic locations, and have like a program that's really clear-cut and I know that will help a lot of people.
Yeah, and especially like you said, I love that you said about your the chakra of your throat, because when you have that, you have the ability to help people and communicate with them. I think it's something you have to do. It's kind of like a purpose. Yeah.
It's what am I called? A light healer? I think we're called light workers. So, that's kind of my purpose in life. That's right. Is I really think to make people smile and also to just feel better about themselves. I think that there's really no greater gift than growth, and people don't even realize how fulfilling and incredible it is when you start to realize, wow, I reacted differently to that situation, or I dealt with that differently. It's like, it's really enlightening and exciting to see how we can actually develop.
One thing I'm wondering as well is, what have been some of your biggest accomplishments with your client that you feel like have been really rewarding to see?
My clients undergo so many incredible transformations, and some are very intense, like some will actually get divorced, some will get engaged, start a business, develop their business. But really, even just hearing people say, I had a really difficult business meeting the other day, and I remember using the tool that you gave me in our session, and I regulated myself and I calmed down and I was able to approach the situation with more calm and more clarity than I had in the past. Just hearing those changes on that even micro level, or I gave my husband the space to step in and be the partner I needed him to be as I was regulating myself. And he really impressed me, or just every little thing that they start realizing in their lives that they're doing differently. To me, I think on that micro level, that eventually accumulates to becoming a better version of yourself, and that to me is the biggest accomplishment. It's not just about the bottom line at the end of the year and this business made this amount, and clients have also made a lot more money, because when you start investing in yourself, you flourish in all departments of your life. I believe that very strongly, but just feeling so much pride for your own achievements. I've seen that in all of my clients, and it's been really, really rewarding.
Yeah, and just to be able to give those tools and like seeing your clients use them in their daily lives, like personal lives, I think that's got to be really gratifying. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Thalia, today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very flattered to be here, and I appreciate the time.
Yeah, and for anyone who would want to work with you or get to know you more, where can they kind of find you?
So they can find me on Instagram. Is a really great place. Is the @Thalia Joie, so THALIA JOIE. You can send me a DM or follow the link in my bio, and then I also have my website, which is www.joie, coaching.ca or .com. Joie is my middle name, and it also means happiness, so it works
really
out pretty well. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the She's Got It All Figured Out podcast. I can't wait to share more incredible discussions with you in the next one. In the meantime, for more personal development resources and support, don't hesitate to download the Bloom app, which is designed according to the 8 dimensions of wellness to help you create a life you're in love with. Start your free trial and take the next step in your personal growth journey today.